This broadcast is presented in 4K HDR Ultra High Definition. Presented by Horns and Hooves Entertainment. You are watching Buffalo After Dark.
What's going on, guys? This show is Bob Hanson over at Buffalo After Dark. I am hosting tonight because Tom is being held back because of work, but I am joined tonight by Sean O'Malley, aka Mr. Bubba Matt. How are you doing, brother?
What's going on, Bob? Just sitting in front of my freaking kitchen watching watching good old golf match. literally forgot what I was going to say, and it was literally in my mind.
Right. Fair enough. But you know what? I'm not a golf person, but we'll definitely talk about that matchup for sure. And that's supposed to be a 3-hour event. So that's
right. I mean, the thing is, I used to love golf like years ago, like a little bit at a time, but at a point where I was more interested in golf than football.
Really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, at one time. So I still got a set of golf clubs in my garage that I haven't used in who knows how many years.
Interesting. I never really was into golf. My brother-in-law, though, who married my sister, is a big golf fan. So
Okay.
Yeah, and he goes out with his buddies over the weekends to play golf, no matter where they go. And he's a police officer, so they get to do all these charity events for golf and stuff like that. So it's fun, like as a casual person, but to watch it, I just never had any intention to watch it. But because it's the match, which we'll talk about in a little bit later on in the show, it's definitely something to keep considering into account because it is Aaron Rodgers and Tom Brady versus Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. We'll definitely talk about that for sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So before we kick on the show, how was your Memorial Day weekend?
It was all right. Didn't really do much. How about you?
It's about the same. I mean, I cooked some burgers and dogs, and then I got to hang out by the pool. I got burnt on Monday, and all over my shoulders down is completely red. So I had to put a little extra ointment on, like Aquaphor and stuff like that, to keep myself in bay. But I should be used to it because I work outside in a federal job, so I'm used to working outside like all the time. So that's like nothing new to me. But because it was my day off, I didn't think about it. It just came right down, just beamed at me, and it was like 80-something degrees outside.
Oh, dang!
Yeah, it was stupid hot outside. I'll tell you that.
Well, at least it's nothing compared to down here. It's supposed to be in the freaking 90s later this week.
Oh my god!
And it's not even officially summer yet. This is one of the reasons why I hate living in the South. Matter of fact, it's my biggest reason why I hate living here in the South.
Because of the weather.
The freaking humidity, bro, is hell on earth. I'll just leave it at that.
Is it really? I never thought of it that way.
It could get it gets as high as the 90s even before summer officially starts.
Sounds like Florida and Vegas weather.
Well, I'm pretty much next to Florida.
Well, it's not too bad. I mean, you're right near the equator if you're talking geographically.
Yeah, the equator is where it's the hottest. So.
Yeah, I mean, why can't the equator just be all around and not just in one half of the United States? That I really wish that was the key, but of course it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So it only comes out when it feels like it. So, but yeah, so we have a lot to discuss today. So we might as well kick off things with some hockey news, and that is: did you enjoy the second round of the Stanley Cup Playoffs?
I did, to be honest, and I was actually surprised that the Rangers pulled it off against the Hurricanes.
Yeah, Game 7 was just complete hell on earth.
Yeah, for Carolina. Good gosh.
And Carolina has never lost a home game in the entire playoffs until that game. It was like, holy shit. As I went around telling everybody within 3 days before Game 7, I said, watch what's going to happen. The Canes win Game 5, they'll lose Game 6, and they'll win Game 7. That never happened, and now I look like a complete dud. So,
yeah, I just didn't think the Rangers would make it that far. And speaking of which, they're actually playing right now against the Tampa Bay Lightning, Eastern Conference Finals, Game 1, and they just scored.
Yep, Chris
They,
Kreider.
as I was talking, they just scored.
Yep, Chris Kreider just put the puck in the net, and it's 1-0 Rangers. But we'll definitely talk about that series later on for sure. But holy shit, Carolina really shit the bed in Game 7. They really did.
Like who the freak saw that coming?
They didn't even bother to show up. That's what really irritated me. Because I was very high on the Hurricanes to go far and to the finals to play Colorado, but unfortunately that didn't happen because the Canes choked on their own shit. So
yeah, pretty much.
And they're going to be dealing with a lot of money at this point. So I honestly don't know where to begin. So as far as that goes, yeah, it's just ridiculous how Carolina played out in Game 7. But I thought they were okay. But then again, they were completely injury rattled. No Franny Anderson whatsoever. He was coming home from an MCL sprain. And if they were to hold on a little longer, he would have came back in the conference finals to play the Lightning. But that never happened because, again, Carolina choked and shit the bed.
Yeah.
So,
jeez Louise.
Yeah. And now the Rangers are playing in the conference finals for the first time in 7 years against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And guess who they played in 2015 in that year?
Oh, boy. The Rangers?
I just said the Rangers.
Oh, Tampa Bay.
Yep. This is the second time that the Lightning and the Rangers are meeting in the conference finals. First time in 7 years. It was in 2015 when Tampa won this series in 7, and the Rangers were at the peak of their rebuild at that time. Now it just feels a little different. It's going to be a really interesting series between the Rangers and the Lightning, between About Vasilevskiy and Igor Shesterkin. And speaking of Vasilevskiy, I actually have a very interesting story to tell in a few minutes regarding him. So we'll get to him in a little bit. But you know what's another team that really pissed me off this year? The Florida Panthers.
Oh, man.
Oh, my God. Wow, holy shit, Florida. I mean, you disappointed me in the first round against the Caps. You didn't look anything like you did, but you really shit the bed against Tampa. You made Tampa look like a juggernaut again, all because of Florida's incompetence.
Jeez Louise, man.
I don't even know where to begin with the Florida Panthers. Shame on you. Same with Carolina. And then I would say the closest of all the games that was probably the most interesting was probably the Battle of Alberta. Even though it should have been longer, it only went 5 games, but Edmonton won that series in 5 games. And who else but Connor McDavid scored the game-winning overtime goal that would take the Flames out of the playoffs and sent the Oilers to the conference finals for the first time since 2006, the year where they pulled a strong playoff performance out of their ass and they lose in 7 to the Carolina Hurricanes in 06.
Jeez Louise, man.
So go ahead.
What is going on in this year's freaking playoffs, man?
I mean, you play to win the game, right?
Yeah, but holy crap.
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to be tight, but I didn't expect Calgary to shit the bed. I mean, I wanted it to go longer, but it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go.
Right.
That's how I strongly felt about it. But the Oilers, McDavid and Draisaitl are having a great playoffs. Evander Kane is having a great playoff so far. He's having a great playoffs. So I got to give props to where props is due for Edmonton in that perspective. So kudos to the Oilers, man. They had a really good playoff run so far. And, of course, the one that was the least surprising, and I was hoping for an upset, was the Colorado Avalanche over the St. Louis Blues in 6 games.
Right.
And boy, oh boy, the way that series played out, holy shit. The rivalry between Nazem Kadri and Jordan Binnington went through the roof. Did you hear about that story?
No, I didn't.
Holy shit. What if I told you Jordan Binnington, the Blues goalie, decided to act like a little whiny bitch to the media? Did I ever tell you that story?
I don't think you did.
Okay, so during Game 3, and this rivalry has gone back since Kadri was traded to the Avalanche 3 years ago, and he's been on the Avs since then. But anyway, so ever since Jordan Binnington won the Stanley Cup, he's been high and mighty and praised by across the league for helping the Blues win their first Stanley Cup. But anyway, so Binnington is their starting goalie, and he's an arrogant, whiny little bitch. So what happened was during the series, I believe it was Game 3 this past weekend against the Blues, and Nazem Kadri scored a game-winning goal in overtime well, not in overtime. Excuse me. What am I talking about? He scored a hat trick, and after all that happens, apparently one of the players on the Blues, I forget who it was, pushed Kadri into the crease and injured Jordan Binnington, and he had an MCL sprain, and he was out for the rest of the playoffs. And Jordan Binnington,
wow.
yeah, so he gets injured, and the Blues are screwed. And I said, yeah, they're done. And the post-game interview with Nazem Kadri, because TNT was interviewing him, and they were talking about his hat trick. And then all of a sudden, as Kadri's talking, he said, like, he was looking this way and that way, and then he saw a water bottle. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. Somebody allegedly threw a water bottle at Nazem Kadri, and he was just trying to talk. And then he's like, yeah, I think I just got whacked in the head with a water bottle, or somebody might have just thrown a water bottle at me. And then they didn't know who it was, but people were suspecting that it was Jordan Binnington. And sure enough, it was yesterday or today, I think it was yesterday, and the St. Louis Blues had their end of the year press conference, and Jordan Binnington went up to into the podium. So somebody asked him in the press conference booth, hey, Jordan, can you explain what happened between you and Nazem Kadri? And he said, yeah, I was in a booth because of my MCL sprain. And, he's laughing and chuckling with TNT, and he's doing an interview. And I swear to God, Sean, this is exactly the words he said. It was my God-given opportunity to throw a water bottle at him. Really think about that. You're a 28-year-old goalie, and you, quote unquote, have a God-given opportunity to assault someone with a water bottle.
Why would you do that?
Because he's fucking childish.
Jeez, dude. How petty you gotta be to do something like that?
Yep, right here. For the win.com headline says Jordan Binnington had such a childish explanation for tossing a water bottle at Nazem Kadri. Oh, this ought to be good. Yeah, he says Binnington on throwing the water bottle. He said, I went to get my knee checked out mid-game. I was coming back to the rink, and the game just ended. Walking down the hallway, I couldn't find a recycling bin on my way down to the hallway, which I doubt. Right before I walked into the locker room, I see him kind of doing an interview there, smiling, laughing, and I'm there in a knee brace, limping down the hallway. I just felt like it was a God-given opportunity. I could just stay silent and go in the room, or I could say something and just have him look at me in the eye and understand what's going on. Something to think about. Yeah, I just threw the bottle, and an empty water bottle, in fact, and it landed like 2 feet from him. It is what it is there, and I mean, but it is what it is. It's hockey, and it's a competitive game, so that's it.
No, okay, first off, that ain't no God-given at whatever he said.
God-given opportunity.
That ain't no God-given opportunity. That's a freaking coward move, bro. I don't care what you call it. Nah, I don't roll with. I don't stand by that, man.
No, I don't either.
No.
And he's one of the best goalies in that division, or he's been one of the best goalies the Blues have had in a long time. But he's their starting goalie, and he was an AHL call-up when the year, like 6 months before they won the Stanley Cup, and they were in last place at that time. And then all of a sudden he comes in, whoop, and they go on a miraculous playoff run, and they win the cup. And then since then, he's been their starter, and he got a massive extension, and et cetera, et cetera. So Jordan Binnington acted like a little bitch in front of all this. So he's like, it's hockey, so I have to act like a douchebag in the middle of all this.
Ugh. Yeah. It's gonna come back to it's gonna come back to bite him real soon.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's already under investigation, and they're saying that he could be accounted for assault.
Jeez Louise, way to go, buddy.
Like, I understand that hockey's yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I'm just saying, like, way to go, buddy. You might have just screwed yourself over.
Basically. And the worst part is that I understand that hockey is a competitive sport, but the way he handled it was very childish.
Yeah, for real, man. Come on.
Yeah,
it's you're almost 30 years old. Why are you gonna like? To me, it's like a freaking kid in a man's body for doing that crap.
Yeah, I mean, now don't get me wrong. Sidney Crosby is a whiny bitch, but he would never do that.
Exactly. That's I give Sidney credit for that. No, as childish as he may be, sometimes I've never heard anything about him doing that kind of crap. So I give him props for that.
But Jordan Binnington, holy shit. That story went viral real quick. when that story came out. Everyone's like, why would you do that?
Exactly.
Fucking asshole. God-given opportunities. Yeah, I don't believe that one bit. But yeah, so that rivalry between him and Kadri really hit the boiling point with that incident. So I honestly don't blame Nazem Kadri. Yeah, he's a rat, but he would never do what Binnington did. He really
Right.
got him under his skin. That you could definitely tell this rivalry is going to grow from here on out. I can certainly say that. Woo.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all right. So, on to the next part of this episode, and that is a preview of the conference finals. We have the Edmonton Oilers against the Colorado Avalanche. What do you got for that series, Sean? Any thoughts
Oh
about
boy. Oh boy.
it? Because at this
Oilers
point,
and Avalanche.
because at this
Right.
point, we're both wrong.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh boy. Oilers and Avalanche. Oh boy. Honestly, I got to give the edge to Colorado.
Colorado?
Yeah, I got to give it to them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's going to be interesting between Connor McDavid and Nathan McKinnon. They're arguably two of the best players on the planet, but it's going to be interesting for sure. I mean, game one was a freaking blood shoot. It was a high scoring game, but there was no goaltending and there was no defensive play on either side yesterday. And then game two is tomorrow night. So it's going to go by really fast. I can tell you that for sure. But Colorado, man, Colorado is a high flying team. They're not, they are determined to win a Stanley Cup and they are determined to break narratives. I can't wait to see what they do. But as far as McDavid and Leon Draisaitl go, I don't know if it might be enough for them to just get passed by the Avalanche, because you have to understand something. The Avalanche have been built from the ground up for the last 5-6 years. And Joe Sakic did a really good job of building that team from the ground up, and he turned them into a juggernaut. And they're going up against the Edmonton Oilers, who I honestly thought was the last team I would be worried about making it this far into the playoffs.
Exactly, but I say the Avalanche in Game 6.
So you're going to say the Avalanche at 6?
Yeah.
You know what? I actually agree with you. If they steal at least one game in Edmonton, it's basically over.
Yeah.
But we'll see what they do. I mean, I really don't know, but only way to know for sure is just by looking out for that series. But either way, the finals this year is looking to be really interesting, and we'll give out predictions for that afterwards. What do you say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. And here we are in the Eastern Conference Finals, and we are at the point of arguably the two best goalies in the playoffs, About Vasilevskiy and Igor Shesterkin from the New York Rangers. Woo! That's going to be a really good series, I think, between the two.
Yeah, speaking of which, the Lightning just tied the game up. It's 1-apiece now.
Really? Who scored? Do you know? Does it tell you?
Let's see if I can. I don't even know these guys. Oh, Stamkos.
Oh, Steven Stamkos. Okay. Yeah, so Yari Ruda and Anthony Cirelli gave him the assist. Alrighty. So again, we're going to be seeing a clash of the Titans between these two goalies. And the interesting aspect of all this is both of them are Russian goalies, both Vasilevskiy and Shesterkin.
Well, there you have it.
Yeah. So one is a runner-up for the Hart Trophy for League MVP, which is Shesterkin. And you have another one who is a two-time Stanley Cup champion and a Conn Smythe Trophy winner for playoff MVP. So this is going to be probably one of the most intense playoff series all year. I mean, now granted, there were some very interesting games, but the matchup with Shesterkin and Vasilevskiy is going to be really interesting. But as far as like the series goes, I actually have Tampa Bay in 7.
Honestly, I'm actually thinking the same thing.
Really now?
Yeah, because I'm going to be rooting for the Rangers, because New York. I gotta. But
I can't stand them.
I know. but I think Tampa Bay's got this one in 7 also.
So you think Tampa in 7? So So we both had predicted the Avalanche and the Lightning in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Right. But for these conference games, I think this is going to be tight, like real tight.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe the Rangers might somehow pull it off, but I don't know. I got the Lightning in 7.
Yeah, I got Tampa in 7, and I got the Avs in 6. So, between these two series, which one do you think has the better storyline, McDavid and McKinnon, or Vasilevskiy or Shesterkin?
I say the latter. The two Russian goalies.
We'll see. And I mentioned earlier in the beginning of the show that there was actually an interesting story I found out this week about Andrei Vasilevskiy, and it's actually pretty hysterical. You want to hear it?
I'm listening.
Okay, so this is coming from our favorite and confident Canadian neighbors, the Ottawa Senators. Yeah, you can already tell where I'm going with this. So,
Oh gosh.
yep, because we've made fun of the Ottawa Senators so many times in the past on the show. It's just like you can't even keep the amount of counting we have left of talking about them. It's just ridiculous.
Right?
So, I actually found an article from Hooked on Hockey magazine, and this is actually the story. I swear to God, I am not making any of this shit up. Ready?
I'm all ears.
All right. So let me get a sip of water, and I will tell you this glorious and confident story.
Oh, this ought to be good.
Oh yeah, we're going for it, man. Here we go. From Hooked on Hockey magazine. Prior to the 2012 NHL entry draft in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the Ottawa Senators had many internal debates on how they were going to use the 15th overall pick at the time, and they were very high on goaltender Andrei Vasilevskiy. But after he got too sunburnt for the interview after a trip to a water park at the time in Pittsburgh, they were completely turned off and did not call him back for a replacement or second interview. And as a result, the Tampa Bay Lightning got the pick from the Detroit Red Wings for Colin Quincy, and obviously Tampa Bay drafted Vasilevskiy. But the Senators ended up drafting one of the biggest draft busts in that class. And 2012 was not a great class either, but there were some gems. But the Senators ended up drafting their other preferred selection, defenseman Cody Ceci, who's currently now a third-string defenseman on the Edmonton Oilers.
Oh gosh. Oh man. Wow, that's embarrassing. Holy crap.
Yeah, try passing up one of the best goalies in the market and one of the best goalies in the league, if not already one of the all-time greats, and over a fucking sunburn. Seriously.
What?
Yeah, that's literally why they didn't draft him, because he was coming into their interview, as I read, that he was completely sunburned. He didn't wear any sunblock, and he was at a water park in Pittsburgh. And when he went for the first interview, he was completely red from head to toe.
Oh my gosh.
I am not making that up.
Wow.
The fact you pass up on Andrei Vasilevskiy for Cody Ceci is like giving up Josh Allen on Josh Rosen.
Jeez Louise, over a freaking sunburn. Wow.
Yeah. This is like
just goes to show how much of a joke Ottawa is.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah. So that was ridiculous. Could you imagine how good he would have been if he was on the Ottawa Senators? They would have been a lot better than they probably are right now. All because of incompetence. Fucking idiots. Seriously. How do you do that? I'm curious. How do you get fired on an interview job, or you don't get applied for a second interview for the job over a sunburn?
I don't get it, man. That's pettiness, dude. To be honest.
Like, why is that such a bad thing? Like, I don't understand.
Me neither.
That's so stupid. I mean, then again, I'm not surprised by Ottawa one bit. I've seen crazier things. But yeah, speaking of crazier things, let's shift our gears a little bit to the NFL world, because things are getting a little interesting.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
Yep, and we are once again talking about Deshaun Watson.
Oh boy.
Did you hear about this?
I briefly saw I saw his name. I briefly read something. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Like freaking.
Oh God, this is
just lawsuit number 24.
23.
23. Well, I'm looking at a Pro Football Talk article, and they said 24.
It's 24 now.
That's what I'm looking at. This is from Pro Football Talk. They said a 24th lawsuit will be filed against Deshaun Watson.
My God, everybody wants him dead.
For real, man. What in the world?
Yeah, I want you to read the 24th case, and I'll read you the 23rd. So apparently the alleged case for lawsuit number 23 is this, and it's apparently another civil lawsuit has been filed against Deshaun Watson, bringing the number at this point until now to 23, according to Ari Mirov. And the petition states that the new plaintiff changed her mind after watching a segment about the lawsuits last week on HBO's Real Sports.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. How do you do that?
No idea.
Yeah. What does your case say? Because you said 24.
Okay, let me find it. Let's see. No, screw it. I'll stick with Pro Football Talk. Okay, largely lost in the news that a 23rd lawsuit has been filed against Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson is that a 24th lawsuit is coming. Attorney Tony Busby, per multiple reports, said Tuesday that yet another lawsuit against Watson is in the works. Watson will deny all allegations, as he has throughout this process, but the total number will become 24. Although Watson's lawyers want to make Busby the focal point of the suggestion that it's all embellished, exaggerated, and/or fabricated, it becomes very difficult for Busby, if he's indeed holding together 24 women with meritless claims, to keep them from eventually getting wobbly, from complaining among themselves or to others that they thought it was going to be a quick and easy payday. That is all taking too long, and/or that they didn't sign up for this. Something along the lines would have surfaced by now. However, there's been no indication whatsoever of a fracture or fissure among the plaintiffs who are suing Watson. While there may indeed be serious weaknesses in one or more of the claims made against Watson, there are now 24 people making those claims. How can a reasonable person accept that all 24 are wrong or lying, in order that Busby has somehow engineered without a hitch a conspiracy of women who have weak cases to come together and to stay together for nearly 15 months and counting? He could still win each of the 24 cases if they all go to trial. However, anyone who knows anything about how the legal system truly works would have to admit that any given lawsuit aimed at resolving contested facts is a crapshoot, a coin toss. The chances of winning 24 such coin tosses are slim, to say the least. Through it all, the expanding portfolio of lawsuits continues to provide a very real distraction for Watson, his new team, and its fans, many of whom aren't comfortable with the situation and many of whom have slipped into predictable, knee-jerk efforts to defend their quarterback no matter what.
Wow.
Definitely not good.
That's not a good look for the Browns. And they gave up, what, 3 first-round picks for him?
And Baker Mayfield.
They didn't give up Baker Mayfield.
Well, they screwed him over.
Yeah, they screwed him over, but they didn't trade him. So if Watson does in fact get suspended, because they're saying allegedly he's going to get suspended for the first 4 weeks of the season, I don't even know if the guy's going to play. I seriously don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Cleveland
all these freaking allegations.
Yeah, Cleveland is in shambles right now. I am so happy for the Panthers to not trade for him, because imagine of all of the allegations against him, but Cleveland being Cleveland, they ended up giving up so much and they were so confident in him that now he's facing allegations of sexual assault.
Yeah, 24 of them.
How? I don't understand that. Like, how does one even get that a certain amount? That's like getting 57 cases of murder. Like,
for real, man. And speaking of something I don't understand, okay, let me just shift gears a little bit to our team. Andre Smith.
It's stupid.
What the actual F were you thinking?
Moroids.
Well, I hope it's worth it, because you're not going to play for the first 6 games of the season.
Well, and that's also including our trip to Kansas City.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, speaking of Kansas City, real brief, my fiance and I, or at this point, my wife and I, bought our flight tickets for the trip, and we just put down a down payment for our Ram 1500 because we're going to be chipping in for the truck for the trip.
Nice.
How are you coming along?
Well, I did put a down payment on the truck as well, and I'm hoping to get my plane tickets sometime this month. Definitely before July. So I'm going to get it this month.
Yeah, and 1 month till my wedding.
Yep, can't wait for that too.
It's coming in fast, baby. It's coming in fast.
Oh yeah,
it's coming in fast. So yeah, let's talk about something really tragic before we get to the final two segments of tonight's show. The match and some rivalry talk. Well, let's talk about the two latest deaths in the NFL. One was Jeff Gladney, which was announced on Memorial Day. He was 25 years old, and he died in a severe car crash on the morning of Memorial Day.
Man, dude, freaking first Dwayne Haskins, now him in car accidents. Like, good grief, man.
That's so sad. It really is.
It is. It really is, man. Like I legit cannot even imagine what their families are going through, man. I just can't.
Yeah.
I just send them my thoughts and prayers to them, and their families, their loved ones. Oh,
Yeah, I'm sending out my prayers as well. But you know what? At the end of the day, though, he's in a better place. He's not suffering anymore. I mean, he died
exactly.
way too young. There's already been a count
Yeah.
of there's been a count of 3 deaths in the NFL this year. 3. That's so
Man,
sad. I mean,
it
two of them
is.
and 2 of them are active players.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Dwayne Haskins died last month. He died a month ago. Jeff Gladney died on Memorial Day. And then recently, I just found out that former Cowboys running back Marion Barber was found dead in his apartment. And the cause of death has not been announced yet, but he has passed away at the age of 38 years old.
Jeez, man, didn't even reach 40.
No, he didn't. And neither did Jeff Gladney. Gladney didn't even reach 29.
Dang, man.
Like I said, I'm sending out my prayers and my thoughts and prayers to the Barber family.
Yeah.
There's not much I could really do, of course, but Marion Barber was a good running back for the Cowboys, though.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He was a good running back for the Cowboys. But I remember watching him in the mid 2000s or early 2010s. I remember when Marion Barber was like the shit back in the day with like Tony Romo and Terrell Owens, etc. Those were the days with the Dallas Cowboys with Marion Barber. Like I remember, didn't they have Roy Williams at one point on the same team, or did they trade him?
I think they did. I don't. Let me see.
Or did they trade him?
Let me find out real quick.
Yeah, because I remember Roy Williams was traded to the Detroit Lions, or he might have been from the Lions to the Cowboys. I mean, I know it, and I know it had something to do with it.
Okay, so no, he first played with the Lions, and he got traded to Dallas and played for them from 2008 to 2010.
Right.
Then he got traded to Chicago in 2011.
Wow. Chicago. Wow. And to give you an heads up, we're actually I'll give you a second brief about what's happening here. But no, I'm sending out my prayers to both the Gladney family and the Barber family. I mean, I'm sending my condolences. I mean, that's the best you could do as an NFL fan.
Yeah.
So and I really wish them a speedy recovery going forward. But let's talk about something more positive. We actually have 2 coming up. Let's talk about what's been talked about for at least a month now is the match.
Yes, which we're both watching right now.
Yeah, and I'm flipping back and forth between this and the Ranger game. So the match, let's talk about this. So the match, for anybody who don't know, the match is a charity game that's taking place in Las Vegas, and it's hosted by Capital One, and it's hosting 4 guys, Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen versus Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And they've been bragging about, who's the better golfer, who's the better trash talker and stuff like that. So they figured, why don't we do a charity game and get everybody hyped up for it? And sure enough, today is June 1st, and they are actually talking about it right now. And I think they're on the 7th hole as we speak at the timing of this recording. So I definitely think it's an interesting idea that I think if it turns out to be a big success, I think they should do it again next year or give someone else a chance.
Oh, definitely. This should be like an annual thing, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just interesting to me to think that the match of all people involved around 2 Hall of Fame quarterbacks, 1 future Hall of Famer, and another future Hall of Famer.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just interesting to think that they actually picked Josh Allen to actually participate in this event.
I mean, I like legit when I first heard that news, I didn't see that coming at all.
No, I don't think a
Holy
lot of people.
crap!
I don't think a lot of people did. It was like a very last minute thing. It wasn't like the Stanley Cup playoffs where you knew within 2 months advance. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's not
right.
like an annual thing. Like, but the only complaint I have is why didn't they do it on a Saturday or something like that, or a Sunday where people can actually, take the time off and watch it?
Good point. I mean, I don't know. Maybe if they do this in the next year, they'll learn from that.
I don't know. This might be a once in a lifetime opportunity.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, and they got people, that Ernie guy from NBA on TV or whatever, TNT, and they got other people like Charles Barkley, who, by the way, said a very interesting comment today. He said he's not caring about the NBA Finals. He's more tuned in for the Stanley Cup playoffs. Yeah, and if you didn't know, Charles Barkley is a big Arizona Coyotes fan.
Great. Good to know.
Oh, that's fantastic. I forgot you still have that bitter beef with the Yotes.
And I forgot they played for the freaking Suns. So honestly, yeah. I can't really be surprised.
No, but then again, they also produced Austin Matthews.
True.
Fuck's sake. But yeah, so Charles Barkley said, turn on the Stanley Cup playoffs, screw the NBA Finals. Because it's almost the same team every year.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Well, unless you count Tampa, then yeah. But outside of that, though, outside of that, he said, go enjoy and watch the Stanley Cup playoffs. It should be fun for those who have never really gave it a chance. But it's totally worth it, though, if anything.
Oh, definitely, hands down.
Yeah, which leads to rivalries, which is actually the basic theme of tonight's episode. And I figured, I wanted to talk about this for a while because I saw a trailer and I showed Sean a little history about it. Was the blood rivalry from the 1996 to all the way to 2002 between the Detroit Red Wings and the Colorado Avalanche. So that inspiration came out, and there's a film coming out in a couple of weeks during the Stanley Cup Finals called Unrivaled, the Red Wings versus the Avalanche. And I saw that. I'm like, that's definitely got to be worth talking about. And everyone's talking about it. Anybody who grew up with that rivalry, including myself as a kid. I remember when that was like in the peak of the hype of the two rivals at that time, because they were superstar caliber players on both sides, and they just absolutely hated each other at that point.
Yeah, and you showed me that, and you sent me the link, and as soon as I saw the video, I was like, "Dang, bro, was that deep?" Like, jeez.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, obviously at the time, I was nowhere near into hockey. I was watching NFL. I was watching freaking NBA. Back in the 90s, all that stuff. Like, but when I saw that video you sent me, I was like, wow, that one hit where the dude had like multiple injuries.
Yeah.
Like, dang, dude, from that one hit.
Yeah, Claude Lemieux was a notorious agitator at his time. Claude Lemieux was a top 3 agitator at the time. He was no joke at that point. And he was a consummate trophy winner for the Devils. He won an MVP for them, and he won 4 cups. And of course, he had to be on the Avalanche, and he had to injure Chris Draper, of all people. Yeah.
Jeez, man.
Yeah, just put fuel on the fire. Just accelerate the rivalry while you're at it. And I tell a lot of people that, and they're like, I've never even heard of this. A casual fan or an amateur fan, nobody had a clue about the Red Wings Avalanche rivalry back in the day. And there's multiple videos about it on YouTube where you can check it out. And it's getting turned into a E60 documentary. It's a 2-hour special. That's what I know for a fact. And they're getting a lot of the people from that era, like Steve Yzerman, Brendan Shanahan, Vladimir Konstantinov, Mike Vernon. I think they got Chris Osgood. I don't really remember. I have to look back. Darren McCarty, he was one who all played for the Red Wings. And then you had Patrick Waugh, Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic, Adam Foote, Huey Krupp, I believe, was on the Colorado Avalanche when that rivalry planned out. Claude Lemieux, of course. So that was one of the best rivalries of all time, in my opinion. Probably the best rivalry in the 1990s.
Shoot, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah, I could not fathom enough about that, because that, to me, I grew up with that rivalry. I watched it when I was a kid. It was the best. That was the golden age of old time hockey, because at that point in the 1990s, at that time, old time hockey with brawls and fighting was starting to die. And then Claude Lemieux came and brought it right back with that one hit in Game 6 of the Western Conference Finals and everything from there just became a personal, blood feud, a massive war between the two organizations. But now when you look back at it, I mean, it was one of the greatest of all time. But like today's Avalanche and Red Wings, it's nothing special. The Avalanche are a juggernaut who are obviously in the conference finals, and the Red Wings are still rebuilding after a certain period of time.
Yep.
But outside of Colorado and Detroit, is there a rivalry, Sean, since we're talking about this, that you grew up with that you really enjoyed watching, even if it didn't have to be the Bills or anybody for that matter?
Actually, I did. Now, for those who don't know, or you should know already, I am a lifelong Yankees fan. Okay.
Here we go.
And of course, yeah, you know where I'm going with this one.
Yes, I know where you're going.
Yankees and Red Sox. But this is my all-time favorite rivalries. I cannot stand Boston. I cannot stand anything about their players. I don't care what player on their team I respected at the time. Could not deal with them. Like, I am so glad that we have more than double world championships than they do.
Well,
that we will always be the bigger brother. I don't care how many recent world titles they've won. We will always be the dominant rival in this rivalry, hands down. Screw the Red Sox.
Well, yeah, to be fair, Sean, you also have 20 plus more championships than the friggin' Red Sox. Now, granted, I'm a casual Mets fan, but I know more than enough to know that the Yankees bought half of their championships, even in the 20s and 30s at that time. I mean, that's just the reality of the situation. And of course, the Red Sox, I think the Red Sox in the last decade, almost 20 years, the Red Sox have had a better dynasty than the Yankees.
Well, I mean, that I'll admit, but I really don't give a rip.
I know you don't, but that's just my statement on that. I'm just telling you from how it is. That's all.
I got you.
And you know what? The Red Sox are not that far behind in titles. I mean, right now they have 9. They're one of the oldest teams in baseball, but Yankees haven't done shit since 2009. The Red Sox have won, I think, 3 more since then. Let me see. When was the last time the Red Sox won the World Series? Yeah, the Red Sox since 2009 won 2 more titles than the New York Yankees. I know the Yankees in the late 90s, early 2000s won 5 total World Series titles. That I know for a fact.
Mm-hmm. That was the best decade for the Yankees.
Yep.
Well, I'm a little biased because I grew up in the 90s, but that was the best decade for the Yankees.
Yep. And the Red Sox in the past 18, soon to be almost 20 years, the Red Sox have won a total of 4 World Series titles.
Okay.
I'm not defending the Red Sox. I'm just
I know. I got you.
I'm just saying, I mean, I'm a Met fan. I have my ways. You can thank me, Yankees fans, for 1986. You can thank me for that. Yeah, you're welcome. Friggin' Boston Red Sox. But is there another rivalry that you could think of that you really enjoyed? Whether it's in old age or modern age, wrestling, football, hockey, anything.
Okay, yes. I'm shifting gears to the NBA. In the 90s NBA, the pinnacle the 90s was the pinnacle of the NBA for me. And even though this rivalry was pretty much one-sided, I still enjoyed it. Knicks and Bulls.
The Knicks and the
my gosh. That even though I was a diehard Knicks fan, I was also a fan of Michael Jordan at the time.
Of course, who wouldn't be?
Exactly. But I just every time those two face off against each other, I had to glue myself to the TV to watch every bit of it.
Well, yeah, that was the golden age of basketball in the 90s.
Yep.
That was the golden age.
For real.
And it's funny because that was also the golden age of hockey too in the late 90s. That was the golden age because there were so many good rivalries in the 90s, like Knicks, Bulls, Red Wings, Avalanche. Those were some intense rivalries back then. But what about modern day rivalries? I think if anything, I would say in any sport, my favorite modern day rivalry is Ravens Steelers. Yeah, Ravens Steelers is always a fun one. They always get at each other's throats. And it's basically the youngest rivalry on this list, I think, from every aspect. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
I don't even know where to begin for that one. But Ravens Steelers to me, I think, was a very interesting rivalry with having to meet in the playoffs in the early mid 2000s with Joe Flacco and Ray Lewis and Ben Roethlisberger and Heinz Ward and et cetera. And then, of course, the Steelers dynasty ended afterwards in the early 2010s, and the Ravens became relevant, and they're trying to get back on top. I actually remember this, and the video got deleted about 10 years ago, but there was a guy, I think his name was Goob, just a quick backstory. And he one time said in the video that he said, I bet you in 25 to 30 years from now, because this was recorded in 2012, he said, I guarantee you by the end of the century, half a century mark, the Ravens will have more Super Bowl rings than the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I said, I don't know about that. I mean, I want to see the Bills get at least one, but to say the Ravens will have more rings than the Steelers is very bold. Unless the Steelers become like the Cleveland Browns, then I think Baltimore has no shot at this point.
Yeah, honestly, I don't see that. I don't see that happening anytime soon.
No, me neither. But it is what it is. But you can't really get your head around that one. But what about in wrestling? Is there a rivalry in mixed martial arts or combat sports that you could think of?
Yes. Pro wrestling, sports entertainment, whatever. The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. My gosh, this freaking rivaled me, man. Like the whole story, like before WrestleMania 19 was that The Rock has never beaten Austin at a WrestleMania. The first time they faced off against each other at a WrestleMania was 15 back in 1999. Austin beat The Rock for the WWF title. 2 years later, WrestleMania 17, the greatest WrestleMania of all time, in my opinion. It was a no disqualification match, and this match, it was just back and forth, and freaking Austin turned heel during the match after Vince McMahon came out and got himself involved in the match. It was no disqualification, so it was all legal. And Austin beat The Rock then, and then came 2003 WrestleMania. What was it? WrestleMania 19, where The Rock finally beat Austin, and that was the last time they ever face off against each other.
Do you think they'll ever bring it back? I mean,
one can only hope. To be honest, I mean the way Austin performed this past WrestleMania, despite his neck injury, his knee injury, all that stuff, I'm surprised. I honestly would not be surprised if they did. I mean, I'd still be excited for it, but I wouldn't really be surprised if they did it one more time.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm a casual wrestling fan. Like, I never really had a favorite wrestler. Like, I was never really religiously into wrestling. I mean, I've had friends and neighbors who were like into it at the time when it was in the peak of its hype. But for me, I would say one rivalry in wrestling, and I'm not counting it on my list, but there was always that one rivalry, and that was Kane versus Undertaker. That was
always, yes.
Yeah,
that's another good one.
That was always a huge rivalry. As far as wrestling goes, that's the one I remember the most. And I used to be a fan of both, but they're obviously not in the WWE anymore. Because again, I know nothing about wrestling these days. I don't really care for it. But back in the day, in the heyday with Hulk Hogan and The Rock and Steve Austin and The Undertaker coming in and Kane coming in, all those guys, I remember they were all coming in at one piece. And that was always something that was hyped about, was how the WWE, I always remember this, was they wanted to get someone similar to The Undertaker because nobody could beat him. So they were talking to some fat guy who was losing all his hair, apparently. He was like, my client is this, my client is that. And it turned out his client was Kane, of all people.
Oh, man. Yeah, that was another epic rivalry, man.
Yeah. But as far as combat sport rivalry goes, on my list, this one's going to count for me. And this happened not too long ago, was Conor McGregor versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. That was a personal fuming rivalry.
I've seen video clips of the out of the ring antics. Like, oh my gosh, man. I remember this clip where McGregor threw, what was it, a chair on the
it was a wheelbarrow.
Threw it at the freaking bus next to where Khabib was sitting. Oh my gosh.
This whole thing Sean, just to give you a brief idea, all started because McGregor at the time, because he was in the middleweight class at the time and Habib was in the featherweight class, and somebody was bringing up the idea of him slimming down to 155 so he could fight Habib. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to come for his belt. And Habib's like, yeah, I'll fight you. But McGregor kept dodging it. And then one day, Habib sent a bunch of his buddies and his entourage to go after one of Conor McGregor's good friends, who just so happens to be one of his trainers. And McGregor was pissed. And he didn't tell anybody where it was. He didn't say anything. And the location of this was at the Barclays Center. And they were looking all around Barclays just for Habib. And they found him on a bus. And McGregor is furious. So he takes a wheelbarrow and he starts throwing it at the glass. And he was arrested and he turned himself in and stuff like that. And he's like, Habib's a little bitch, because that's what happens when you're talking to one of my trainers and sending out your entourage. And then they were like, all right, we're going to set up this fight just so we can hew this rivalry out. And Habib was just like, I'm going to kick his ass. And Habib and McGregor are two different styles of fighters. McGregor was more of a striker and Habib was more of a wrestler. And keep in mind, this guy is all the way from the small island of Dagestan, which is a Islamic Russian island, which is right near the northern area of Siberia. And this guy has, since he was 3 years old, has been wrestling bears. No joke. and I'm thinking, okay, Habib's going to kill him. And the funny thing about that rivalry is I remember my brother invited me to a party at the time of the fight, and everybody in that party was voting for McGregor. And I said, you guys are all going to look like assholes in the end of the night, as I am the one guy, Sean, true story, that I was the only guy that said, I'm a fan of both, but Habib's going to win. Watch. And next thing you know, boom, he took him out in 2 rounds and he put him in a choke lock and McGregor tapped out. And right after that was a fuming brawl after the fight. Habib said something to McGregor, and they went after one of McGregor's trainers, and then one of the trainers on Habib's side went after McGregor, and it was just a big ass brawl in the end of that fight. And that took place at UFC 229 in Las Vegas.
Okay, first off, I did not know about any events leading up to the whole wheelbarrow bus incident. Like, dang, I just thought. I just thought freaking McGregor did all that for, because I thought I just thought he did what he did because he was a jerk. But wow, now hearing that story, I guess I somewhat get it. I get the reaction now. Like, dang.
And McGregor was trying to dodge a fight with Habib. Like, he didn't want to fight him. And then, of course, this whole entourage thing came about. And Habib's like, I'm going to humble Conor. I'm going to take his featherweight title away from him. Because McGregor was arguably – McGregor – you have to understand, Sean. Conor McGregor turned the UFC into what it is today. And he took it from this level to this level. He was on top of the mountain like that. And McGregor – and this was 6 months after or 2 years before that fight – he was taking on the national title against, I think it was Eddie Alvarez. And the next thing you know, McGregor won that fight. And he's like, all right, I'm coming after Habib. I want to fight him next. And Habib's like, no, I'm not going to fight him then. And then it just kind of slimmed down to 155. I think at the time, McGregor was, 160. And you had to be a certain weight to go to a certain class in the UFC to have them fight one another. But at the time, McGregor was on a different level and Habib was on a different level. At that time, McGregor was in the lightweight, and then Habib was in the featherweight. And you know what's the really sad part about all this?
What?
They used to be friends.
Really?
Yeah,
I did not know that.
Oh, they were big. They were closest friends. They used to hang out together. And then, of course, they were smack and talk about one another, and that's what led to that rivalry. Was the feud with McGregor. Not being an asshole, but it was just Habib starting everything, and everybody said it was McGregor's fault. I'm like, yeah, what Conor did at the time was shitty. He should have never have acted that way. But I understand where he was coming from. But yeah, it got really ugly fast.
Wow, that's insane.
Yeah, it got ugly real fast. I'm surprised. You should definitely, when you get a chance, look up the brawl that took place after that fight.
Yeah, I'll look it up. I'll look it up when I get a chance.
And I'm like, holy shit. because I didn't expect it. I mean, I knew there was going to be some bad blood. I thought it was going to be a classy way of saying, hey, good fight, whatever. And then they settled it. But no, that went from that. It felt like the Red Wings Avalanche rivalry. It went from here to here in an instant. So that's how I felt. Is there another rivalry? We have 2 more each, but coming in at number 4, which one do you got at number 4 as a rivalry that you remember or you currently have now?
Okay, another rivalry I remember, and it's still one of my favorites. College basketball, Duke versus North Carolina.
Really? Why?
My gosh, yes. Because I've always preferred North Carolina over Duke. I could not freaking stand Duke. Their rivalry. Oh man. Like I remember like a few things, but like every time they face off against each other, I just could not stand Duke like at all.
So you're an NC fan.
Pretty much, yeah. I like several favorite college basketball teams. North Carolina, Syracuse #1, UConn, and a couple others I can't think of right now.
Yeah, I hear you, but I mean, I don't know anything about college basketball. I don't really watch basketball, but the 90s basketball was probably the best era for me to watch anything regarding that, because that was probably at the hype of what it was at that point. No matter what level of sporting it is. But I would say another rivalry that took place for me in my lifetime, at least, as like one of the best rivalries I could think of, is I would say, I'm going to double dip in here. I'm going to say the Battle of New York. And this rivalry is now 50 years old. Is the New York Islanders and the New York Rangers. The Battle of New York. That to me is always a good one. And they haven't met in the playoffs in almost 30 years, but their games, every Ranger game at the Garden or at UBS or at the Coliseum, didn't matter where it was, you would always hear, and to this day, you will always hear at the Garden, you'll hear do 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 do. Potvin sucks, because of back in the 70s, Dennis Potvin, who was a Hall of Fame defenseman for the Islanders, checked one of the Rangers players from behind and basically ended his career. And a lot of Rangers fans were not sitting well on it. And the rivalry back then, because the Islanders, you have to remember, they won 4 cups in a row in the 80s, and they weren't even 10 years old at that point, and they won 4 cups in a row. And there was a cheer before 1994, the year the Rangers won the Stanley Cup. There was a 54-year drought with the New York Rangers. And what really got under the Ranger fans' skin from Islander fans was, again, they were all not even a decade old yet. And they used to chant 1940 after every game at the Coliseum just to get under their skin, basically. They used to just mock the Rangers until they won the Stanley Cup in 1994. Every game, 1940, every time. That rivalry is so intense that there was actually brawls at every game between a Ranger fan and an Islander fan, or Islander fans and a Ranger fan, every time in the stands or at the games or whatever. There are so many like background stories about the rivalry, like you can't even go as far as I can remember it. But it's one of the most intense rivalries that's still up to date, in my opinion, on that one. I certainly would say that for sure. So that's coming in at number 4 for me. Okay. And then the last one for you is number 5. What's the last one you can think of?
Okay, college football, the game, Michigan, Ohio State.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, man, this, like, especially back in the 90s. Ooh,
yeah, that was huge.
You did not want to mess with them boys back then.
No, definitely not.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was intense at that time. So I definitely would say that for sure. Number 5 for me. I don't even know where to begin with this one. I really don't. I really thought about this one for a while now. I want to say there's actually 2 on my mind, but I don't know which one I would put on top. And I'm going to say either the Battle of Alberta or the Battle of Pennsylvania. And that was the Penguins and the Flyers, or the Flames and the Oilers. Which one is the most intense? But the one that's picked up the most, I think both of them are fairly equal. But as far as the most intense rivalry of the 2, I mean, they're both respectively well. But they're both healthy, but I have to pick the Battle of Pennsylvania because a few years ago, I want to say 10 years ago, the Penguins and the Flyers, just 3 days before the playoffs in 2012, they got into a huge, and I mean huge, Sean, massive brawl. And they got into a huge brawl 3 days before the playoffs. And guess who the Penguins played in the first round?
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia. That's right. Battle of the Keystone State.
Oh man.
3 days before the playoffs. And that game was in Pittsburgh. And you can see Dan Bosma here and Peter Laviolette on top here. And they're just screaming at each other like this. They are just going at each other. It's insane. And
wow.
Sidney Crosby does not like the Flyers. Kadri does not like the Penguins when he played for the Flyers. It's intense. No matter who's on that team, they absolutely hate each other. The Battle of Pennsylvania, man. And if you go back in the 1990s with Mario Lemieux, the Flyers had Eric Lindros. That was a fairly even matchup series. And they met in 97, and the Flyers beat them, and they went all the way to the Cup Finals before they got swept by Detroit. So, yeah, and the Penguins, of course, after that won 3 Stanley Cups. So I would say right now, the Penguins are like the Pennsylvania team. Yeah, the NHL rivalries are so unique to its specimen. If anybody who's a casual fan out there who doesn't watch hockey casually or religiously, definitely check out the top 10 rivalries in the NHL. And I know that video is from like 2016 or 2017, but that gives you a pretty good impression of what you would get from any rivalry in the NHL. Everybody says Montreal or Boston or Montreal, Toronto. But for me, in my list, I would say the Battle of Pennsylvania. That to me would be my 5th spot.
Okay. And honestly, I gotta shoot. What's it called? I got a what's that word again?
Take your time.
Like a notable rivalry, like a. All right, I got a freaking underrated rivalry that wasn't on my list, but
go ahead.
There's still back to college basketball, Syracuse and UConn. Like I remember this one game. I think it was back in 2009. I think it was a conference tournament back when the Big East was still around. With those teams, I cannot remember what year that was. Let's see. Yeah, the game that went to 6 overtimes. Like, oh my gosh. Yeah, March 12th, 2009, like days after my birthday.
Wow, really?
Yeah, oh, for real. This was a 6 overtime six overtime game, and they're calling it, this was the where is it again? Second longest Division I game ever played.
Really? I had no idea.
Oh yeah, this was, my gosh. This was a quarterfinals game in the Big East tournament.
Really?
So
I had no idea.
Yeah. But Syracuse came out on top, 127-17.
Damn.
I mean, no, 127-117. My bad.
And this was 6 overtimes?
Yes,
Damn.
6 overtimes. No joke. If I can find it on YouTube, I'll send you the link.
Absolutely, please do. I love watching a good rivalry, but yeah, for those who are curious, I'm going to throw one more. Honorable mention in here as well. I'm going to throw in another football rivalry just for the sake of an argument here. I'm going to say for an honorable mention, I'm going to definitely say in the 90s, not now, but keep this in mind, the 90s, like early 90s, was the Dolphins and the Bills.
Wow.
Yeah, you forgot about that one, did you?
Well, I was a Giants fan at the time, but I did remember this one.
Oh yeah, with Brian Cox going like this to everybody.
I remember that one.
Yeah, that was a very interesting series of games at that time. And I think the Dolphins lost to the Bills. Yeah, the Bills beat the Dolphins in the AFC Championship game to send the Bills to their 3rd straight Super Bowl at that time. And back in the day, the Dolphins were always kicking the Bills' ass. And then one day in the 1980s, Joe Ferguson throws a short ramp pass. I forgot who caught it, and knocked down the goalpost after they beat the Dolphins. But their rivalry is so historic. Like, I can't even comprehend. I feel like if the Dolphins get good eventually, I mean, the Bills are amazing right now, but the Dolphins ever get to that point, Watch out, because that could be one of the best rivalries in football again.
Yep. Shoot, I look forward to it.
Hell yeah. So, but is there anything else you want to say before we go?
Yeah. That word I was trying to say, honorable rivalry that wasn't on my list.
What is it?
Well, that's what it was. Syracuse, UConn.
Oh, so you were looking for an honorable mention.
Yeah, honorable mention. That was the term I was looking for.
Okay, no problem. But yeah, so I had a really fun time with this episode, man. I'm talking about rivalries, talking about golf for a little bit, talking about Stanley Cup playoffs a little bit. It was a good time. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I did too.
Oh, Rogers just hit a friggin' 124-foot, putt and it hit the water.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Good luck.
I don't know if I saw that. So I wasn't even paying attention. Holy crap.
I just saw that last second, but it is what it is. But yeah, enjoy the match, man, because there's only get one chance. And keep in mind, remember, in 2 weeks during the Stanley Cup Finals on E60, ESPN, they're going to be releasing the documentary Unrivaled, the Red Wings versus Avalanche. I can't wait to see it. I'm so excited.
Hey, shoot, now you got me all hyped for it.
Good. You should be. Look up the series of videos for that. Listen, I'm telling you, that was arguably the best rivalry in my lifetime. Hands down. And that only lasted 7 years. And you know what's really more interesting? Just one more thing before we go is during that span of 96 to 2002, the two teams together, right?
Mm-hmm.
Won 5 Stanley Cups.
Wow.
They really pushed themselves to the limit. Like the sky was the limit at the time. And both of them were just going at it. It was freaking amazing. I'll never forget it. Nowadays, it's nothing special. But back then, Red Wings Avalanche rivalry, my all-time favorite rivalry in all of hockey, hands down. So, okay. So I can't wait for that documentary to come out. Unrivaled, Wings for Zavs. It should be out in a couple of weeks. I can't wait. And I will talk to you guys soon. I am your host, Bob Panther, for the night. And this is Sean O'Malley, Mr. Bubba Matt. And we are signing off, and we will see you next time.
Take care, everyone.
Buffalo After Dark is an H&H Studio production and is produced in partnership with Horns & Hooves Entertainment.